Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are taking on a truly monumental figure whose name literally means the Great.
Jalal ad-Din Muhammad Akbar.
Exactly. We're diving into the sources that detail how this
for 6 months. Before this, he had wrested it from the Afghan Suri dynasty after having spent some 15 years in exile. From the time of his father Babur's invasion of India in 1526, the empire had never truly seemed stable. There was always a rebellion, always a war. Now, after Humayun, his young son Jalaluddin was put on the throne, who could easily have become a puppet king, would eventually become the greatest ruler of India. Magellan TV. Magellan TV is a streaming service that hosts over 3,000 documentaries and shows in various genres, from history to science, as well as travel and art. They're adding new shows all the time, which you can enjoy on all sorts of devices. Also, best of all, there are no ads, and an increasing percentage of shows is available in 4K with no additional cost. They were kind enough to offer Al-Muqaddam viewers an extended free month-long trial. You can go to try.magellantv.com/Al-Muqaddam to take advantage of that. This week I watched Codebreaker Alan Turing, Persecution of a Genius, which tells the story of how the absolute Chad Alan Turing helped turn the tide of the Second World War and world history, and also how he was persecuted for being homosexual. Also, you should watch The Age of Hubble, which is a great documentary about the series of high-tech telescopes that scientists are using to study the universe and our place in it. Again, you can take advantage of a month-long free trial by clicking the link in the description. It would also help support the channel. Back to the video. Jalaluddin Muhammad was born in 1542 in Sindh in modern-day Pakistan. His father, Humayun, had no realm to rule at the time and was going around India looking for allies. While he didn't find many allies, he did get help from the Safavids of Iran, who lent him an army if he converted to Shiism, which, at least on surface, he did. Humayun invaded India, re-established the Mughal Empire, and 6 months later died in 1556, leaving the empire to his 13-year-old son Jalal, who would be known to history as Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar. Immediately, courtly powers started circling the boy king in the hopes of turning him into a puppet. One of those powers was Humayun's loyal general Bayram Khan. Bayram Khan installed himself as the regent and led the army. However, his loyalty to the Mughal Empire ensured that he would do his best to help the empire. Sensing weakness, one general named Hemu raised his flags in a rebellion and seized Delhi. Bayram Khan led the army against him and defeated him in the Second Battle of Panipat. Bayram Khan then defeated the remaining Suri claimants and secured Mughal borders. As the empire became stable, another powerful figure in the Mughal court emerged. This one was named Mahamanga, Akbar's former wet nurse. She became Akbar's regent when he was at the court, while Bayram Khan was his regent when he was on the battlefield. Mahamanga promoted her son Adam Khan to high positions, but he, in 1562, assassinated one of Akbar's highest-ranking ministers. As a result, Akbar had him thrown from a palace balcony, immediately killing him. Grief-stricken Mahamanga herself died shortly after. Akbar commissioned a tomb built over both their graves out of guilt. Around the same time, Akbar dismissed Bayram Khan, claiming he was old and should retire to Mecca. Later, he was assassinated either by Akbar or by the Afghans whom Bayram Khan had defeated. Akbar married one of his widows and adopted his 4-year-old son. This son, Abdul Rahim Khane Khanan, would eventually become one of Akbar's most important ministers. Akbar had now wrestled the control of his empire from his regents, and he was starting to come into his own. Immediately, he began eyeing Gujarat. Gujarat served as a vital port for all the goods from North India. It was also a refuge for the rebels and exiles from the Mughals. Along with the hostile Sultan, Afghan elements were found there. Would not only secure a vital port for the Mughals, but also secure their southern border and prove to the world the Jalal, or majesty, of Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar. Although between Agra, Mughal capital, and Gujarat are the lands of Rajasthan, which were controlled at the time by the Rajputs. Before the arrival of the Mughals, the Rajput were seeking to dominate North India, but the Mughals had foiled that plan. Hence, there was a lot of hostility between the Rajputs and the Mughals. However, luck, it seems, was on Akbar's side. Out of the many Rajput clans in Rajasthan, the Kachwaha clan was the first to ally with the Mughals due to internal power struggle between the ruler Raja Parmal and his nephew. Parmal approached Akbar with an offer of alliance. In exchange for material support, he would give his daughter in marriage to Akbar. With Akbar's support, the Kachwaha became a powerful clan. Hence, more and more Rajput clans saw the benefits of allying themselves with the Mughals and did so. It usually had the same conditions: alliance and support in return for a daughter in marriage. Hence, as the Mughal Empire grew larger, the imperial harem. By 1568, most of Rajasthan was under the control of Akbar. The relationship between the Mughals and the Rajputs was a bit complicated but quite brilliant. Rajput leaders would join the Mughal court as advisors, ministers, and even governors while staying the rulers of their own clan. The entry of so many Rajputs into the court and the harem sped up the process of Indianization of the Mughals. At the same time, the Mughals circulated their own coinage in Rajput lands, and the Rajput had to ensure safety of merchants and pilgrims making their way across Rajasthan to Gujarat. Akbar even regulated the succession of allied Rajput clans. Rather than fighting and annexing all those clans, Akbar had, through diplomacy, tamed Rajasthan. An interesting figure who appeared from the Mughal-Rajput relationship was Man Singh, the grandson of Raja Parmal. While he ruled his own land, he also led the military for Akbar in many conquests and was made the governor of various regions such as Bengal. The only Rajput clan that didn't ally with the Mughals was the Sisodias, whom Babur, Akbar's grandfather, had first defeated around 4 decades earlier. In 1568, their major fort of Chittor was besieged, which fell, but only after 30,000 soldiers made a last stand while their women committed Johar. Johar was a tradition where women of besieged forts and cities would burn themselves in order to avoid being dishonored by the enemy because, a man's honor sits in the genitalia of his family's women. The Sisodias, however, would continue coming back. Akbar also brought reforms to the way land was distributed among his vassals. He started the Mansabdari system, where a numerical mansab or rank was assigned to people. This could go from 10 to 10,000, which was an indication of how many troops that Mansabdar is supposed to provide to Akbar. This land grant, or Jagir, was temporary and could not be inherited. Akbar moved people around a lot, so they weren't able to build support and power in one place. Akbar was seeking to reduce the importance of blood ties in his empire. No one ethnicity was given preference in Mansabdari, but rather achievements and skill were what mattered. He also circulated Persian classics like Al-Ghazali's theology and Rumi's poetry among his vassals to create a Persianized ethical framework that transcended blood and ethnic ties. In the 1560s and 70s, Akbar led his army all over India, expanding the empire greatly. In 1571, he moved his capital from Agra to Sikri, which he developed into a new town called Fatehpur, the city of victory. By 1584, the Mughals were able to finally sweep away the Sultanate of Gujarat and take it under their control. In the late 1570s and early 1580s, there were various rebellions in Mughal territories. This was inspired, if not supported, by the rise of Mirza Hakim, Akbar's younger half-brother. In 1581, Akbar led an army all the way to Kabul in pursuit of his rebellious brother. Hakim left Kabul and fled to nearby mountains. Akbar stayed in Kabul on the ancient throne his father and grandfather had once occupied, and then declared his sister Bakht al-Nisa as the governor of Kabul. Mirza Hakim was defeated the next year, and he died a few years later, apparently of alcohol poisoning. Mirza Hakim's rise showed Akbar his northwestern weakness. The trade route that went from Central Asia to Delhi through Kabul was a vital one, not in the least because it brought war horses, so Akbar had to move closer to it to keep it stable. Hence, in 1586, he moved his capital for a third time to Lahore. Meanwhile, his trusted Raja Man Singh was sent to Kabul as its governor, and Akbar himself made a second visit in 1586. In 1586, Akbar also annexed Kashmir and then Sindh, the land of his birth, in 1590. During his years of conquest, Akbar showed brilliance in both diplomacy and warfare. He employed mounted archers from Central Asia and Rajput troopers from India. These two together made a devastating force that no one in India could stand up to. After conquest, though, Akbar didn't vanquish his enemies. He enrolled them into his own ranks and made them part of the Mughal Empire. He even sent his own robes to conquered vassals to make them feel what it's like to be a Mughal. Akbar replaced the powerful position of the vizier with 4 different separate roles. Chief Diwan, the finance minister; Mir Bakshi, the commander of the military; Khan-e-Saman, the royal chamberlain; and Qazi al-Quzat, the chief judge. This system was replicated on smaller levels as well. Qazis were appointed to rule on judicial matters. An interesting thing is that in smaller towns and villages, the village council or panchayat decided on judiciary matters. However, Akbar also appointed qazis there, although they ruled according to local tradition and not Islamic law. Akbar still decided on the most important cases and was the only one who could hand out capital punishment. To get the commoners to accept his rule, Akbar tried to fit into the classic Indian figure of Sarvabhaum, meaning universal ruler. He also employed, on both higher and upper levels of his government, locals so that they wouldn't feel left out and see him as an alien invader. While Akbar, in his propaganda and even his autobiography, claimed to be a universal, all-powerful ruler with none above him but God, the truth was that the state was very decentralized and locals held a lot of power. Akbar's brilliance comes from the fact that he knew everyone personally and kept them in check. He knew who could become powerful under what conditions, so he moved them around. Okay, now to the most interesting part of Akbar's reign, his religious policies. During the early years of his reign, Akbar wasn't really in control and the state wasn't all that tolerant. Akbar's name was attached to persecution of non-Muslims. However, when he came into power himself, he changed these policies. He had been raised under Shia, Sunni, and Sufi influences. At the age of 21, in 1563, Akbar abolished the pilgrimage tax, which was taken from all non-Muslims. The next year, he also abolished the jizya. It should be kept in mind that while jizya was technically the law, it was hardly ever enforced in India. He also banned the killing of cows and peacocks. In 1565, he went a step further and started sponsoring Hindu temples. He also made an annual pilgrimage to the shrine of Sufi saint Moinuddin Chishti. By 1577, he was seen